think that the engineer of the future is going to be really defined by the person who is able to choose what is worth doing. They're going to own the evidence, they're going to own the understanding, as well as the verdict around increasingly automated work that's being done by agents. Now, when I use the term verdict, I don't mean that we're suddenly all going to be Judge Judy. We're not. But what I mean really is something just a little bit different. I mean, we're going to be accountable for the production decisions. Does something ship? Do we block it? Do we redirect it or accept the risk? Quality is something that we all talk about a lot, but quality produces evidence. A verdict assigns responsibility. And answerability is really what lets us stand behind a verdict. And this, of course, is not the only way that our industry is starting to think about our roles evolving. Boris Cherny recently put some useful language around what many teams are starting to feel. The old craft boundaries are getting blurry, and roles are rebundling around the work itself. And the important question here becomes a lot less about what is your title and more what part of the system can you own. Now, I like this taxonomy quite a lot. It's optimistic without being overly vague. So things like prototype, build, sweep, grow, and maintain. And these are real engineering modes. Agents are going to help with all of them, but the scarce thing is not merely doing the task. It's going to be knowing which mode your product needs and what quality bar applies and who owns the result at the end of the day. Now, we've been talking about harnesses and loop engineering in software factories over the last couple of days. We can talk why this shift is happening. We've moved past the model as the whole story, right? With harness engineering, the coding agent is the model plus the harness around it, right? Your context, your tools, your file system, Git. And the harness is what turns intelligence into something that you can delegate to. The next move was loop engineering, where we weren't just prompting one run anymore. We were designing systems that kept prompting, checking, and remembering, and deciding what happened next. And that's really when agents started to feel like infrastructure. And once you start putting all of those things together, you get that software factory. Dex covered this well in his talk, but you have agents that are running inside that inner loop and evidence that comes out. Humans still end up making the production decisions in this loop. And the win really isn't moving us from it. The win is moving human judgment to the highest leverage checkpoint, I think. And this is why it starts to matter now. AI-generated and AI-assisted code is becoming normal code for a lot of us. One of Sonar's 2026 surveys said that AI-assisted code is no longer marginal. It's increasingly having a large role in our code bases. And once that happens, answerability stops being this philosophical word. It becomes an engineering requirement. And there's a quality point here as well, right? Like, we used to care about clean code, code that people could read. But cleaner code is actually not just going to help the next human and the next person on your teams. It actually helps the next agent. Another one of Sonar's research studies found that clean and messy repos had roughly the same pass rates, but clean code actually used fewer tokens and caused fewer revisits. So there's a lot of benefit to maintainability that can fuel efficiency for your factories. Now, making generation cheaper does not automatically make review cheaper, right? I think a lot of us are facing this moment, and we know that engineers are not naive. The Sonar numbers say that almost everybody is skeptical of AI code. Now, I love working in my software factory. I love building my engineering loops. But the problem is still capacity. If 96% of people don't fully trust that code, but only about half always verify before committing, we have this danger that we've got distrust without bandwidth. And so safety comes from making verification cheaper, clearer, and harder for people to skip. And if you zoom out from the individual reviewer to the organization, review and validation start becoming a bottleneck when governance isn't able to catch up, and adoption is already moving way faster than any company can go and set their policies. And this means that we have some hard questions we have to deal with, like, did a model actually touch this file? And the hard questions are also like, what constraints guided that work? What evidence was produced? What risk was accepted, and who owned the result? Now, the agent can ship more than any of us can review, right? So what are we still good for? I think it's a question that's on a lot of our minds, right? And you know, if Homer Simpson's experience automating computers can teach us anything, maybe this is our future. I don't think it is, but it's one direction things could take. Now let's try that again. If change is where humans enter the loop, if generation scales faster than comprehension, the scarce resource becomes judgment that's backed by evidence. So the question is no longer how much can the agent do, but where does human judgment still create leverage? Now, I want to talk to you about two terms that I'm going to use for the career part of this talk: alpha and decay. Alpha is the gap between what you can do today and what current models can do. That gap is a very real thing, and decay is the clock on that gap. If the thing that makes you special is a capability, the frontier is eventually going to come for it, right? And there's a whole conversation around this. This is one of the reasons why taste keeps coming up. Paul Graham had a point here that I think is very right. When anyone can make anything, choosing what to make becomes very important. And I buy that. But I also think that we have to be very careful because taste can become a magic word for whatever part of the work we don't want to explain just yet. Mitchell Hashimoto gave us a more useful version of this definition. Taste is the ability to make high-quality, qualitative judgments where no objective metric exists yet. That matters because it puts tastes before the benchmark and before the market has fully voted. When you try out a model and you see the kind of UX and the kind of experiences that it builds, you can often tell when you think it has taste or lacks taste, or where there's a gap there that humans can fill. Now, this is also only useful if we can turn some of this concept around taste into critique, examples, and better judgment over time. So yes, taste matters when production gets cheaper. And if anyone can generate 10 options, the scarce skill is really knowing which option deserves to exist. But taste is not some eternal moat. It's alpha as well. Now, the people with taste are still going to matter. I personally think they're still going to matter for a long time. But the best version of that skill is not mystique. It's making better calls and leaving behind examples that your team and the system can learn from. Now let's apply the decay test. Well, we used to have speed. That decayed. We used to have recall. You know, harnesses have memory. Verification is moving into harnesses, evals, static checks, and model critique. Taste, I continue to think this is going to decay much more slowly, but it still resets as models learn from examples and preferences. Even judgment, in some ways, is a slope rather than a wall. So the strategy is not to cling to any one capability.